he has to take his ideas and go with what he wants. I think it's very disrespectful to our country. I think it's very, very disrespectful to our flag. I like Bob very much. He's my friend, but he gave me a Super Bowl ring a month ago, right?
So that was the president talking about the NFL protest. And this discussion has been going on for quite a while, and it's nothing new. Now, I'm going to talk about this from several perspectives because of course, I'm the chief. And so I spent 25 years in law enforcement. So I've always been pro law and order, saluting in the whole 9 yards. And so, and I have to say that initially when I saw what was going on with the flag, I was like, I don't know if I would do that or not. That was just, but that's my upbringing, and that's the profession that I've been in. I mean, whenever I've been in uniform or at any police function, when the national anthem comes on, you snap to it. And so I sort of understand the feeling that it's unpatriotic if you don't have a true perspective of what this whole thing means. Okay, so when you look at what Colin Kaepernick started, and he started out taking a knee, and it's my understanding that he also talked to some military veterans, and they said the best thing to do to show respect is to take a knee when you're talking about anything dealing with the national anthem. And so that's what he did. Now, that message has not gotten out. Unfortunately, the message was hijacked, and an alternative message has come out in terms of why these gentlemen are protesting. Now, let me also say conversely that when you're working for a company, the company certainly can impose certain behavior standards on its employees. However, no one has the ability to take away your constitutional freedoms. So for example, a company could not order you to incriminate yourself in a criminal matter. You just can't. You just don't lose your constitutional freedoms. So this is a discussion that blacks, whites, green people, yellow people, whoever, are on both sides of this issue. I've heard African Americans say, I would never do anything like that. I understand the problem, and I understand what they're trying to say, but that's not the way I would have done it. But whatever side of the issue you're on, I don't see how you can refer to these gentlemen as unpatriotic. Now, if these gentlemen were standing up saying, you know what, we are so upset with what's going on to black men in the streets of Detroit that we hope the Russians will come in here and take this country over, that's one thing.
Right.
But what they're saying is we need to draw attention to this issue so that we can make it better for everyone, because no one should have to fear being stopped by the police. Now, let me make sure that we're very clear. When people are doing things they have no business doing, they need to be stopped by the police. When the community is saying that we need the police to come in and help us with the issue, and Mr. Policeman, do what you do, the police need to get in there. They need to do certain things. But what we're talking about are a couple of incidents where, well, not a couple, I shouldn't say that. But what we're saying is that there have been incidents that have happened throughout the country that the athletes are saying, this is our way of bringing attention to it. Now, there's some people that say, hey, Michael Jordan and all you famous guys, you could take some money and you could give it to certain defense attorneys and other folks, and you could help these guys out, and you could do all kinds of wonderful things. And that's something they could do, I guess, if they wanted to. But they have chosen this venue instead. So, again, what makes them patriotic? And let me throw something else out there, Ambezi and Money Marvin. But yet, you had good people on both sides of the issue in Charlottesville who were neo-Nazis. Neo-Nazis. The word Nazi in itself is anti-American, anti-Jewish, anti-everything. But yet the narrative was there were good people on both sides of the issue.
Oh, from the president, you're saying. That's what he said, right?
That's what he said. So I'm struggling with, how are you a good person on the side of hate? But yet, when you're talking about a group of men, black and white, who are taking a knee is a sign of submission when you're on a knee.
You know, honestly,
that's not an aggressive posture when you're on a knee.
You know, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in on the NFL thing, because I absolutely refuse to go back and forth on somebody who has the mental capacity of a child. So I'm just gonna go on the NFL thing. So, you know, granted, I completely understand that may not have been the time nor the place for that protest, especially when you have people who have no idea why you're doing it in the first place. Because at the end of the day, when Colin Kaepernick started taking the knee, yes, he made it clear that it was about the police brutality. But if you were sitting in that stadium that day and you just saw him take that knee and you weren't there to see the social media and stuff like that, you had no idea why that was going on, which obviously causes speculation. So while, yes, we know that it's about the Black Lives Matter movement and he was doing it peacefully and he was showing respect, there are also people who will always, always, always be more sensitive to the respect shown to the flag, especially in regards to the military, which I also understand. I mean, you have families who watch their mothers and fathers go and fight for our country, and then you go on TV and to them it almost seems like, okay, like, I understand that this is an issue, but why do they have to protest it by quote unquote disrespecting the flag? Granted, you did have veterans who said, yes, oh, that's respectful, but you have to understand that with any issue, there are always going to be misinformed people. There are always going to be people who don't necessarily understand what is going on. And that is what causes the first side of speculation. You had people talking about disrespecting the military who didn't even know that the protest had nothing to do with the military. It was about police brutality. But I appreciate what Kaepernick did for bringing such avid attention to the issue, but sometimes I do wonder if that was the way to do it. I really do wonder, because, you know, in the age of social media now especially, there are tons of ways that people can band together to get other people's attentions. There are all kinds of movements that have been started. But nevertheless, it was risky. It was brave. And regardless if people liked it or not, it did gain attention for the issue that was at hand. But regardless of how you felt about how he was dealing with the flag, whether he was respecting it, disrespecting it, you can never call him unpatriotic, because the only reason why he was protesting in the first place was because these people were not being treated fairly in our country. How is protesting for equality unpatriotic if this country was founded on the basis of equality for all?
Well, the country, of course, was founded when the folks came over in the early during the Revolutionary War period, because they were escaping persecution and the ability to practice religion and all these other things over across the pond. So they came here looking for a better way. How ironic that, I'm just digressing for a second, that a lot of the immigrants who are trying to come are looking for a better way, but that's a topic for another day. But in getting back to the NFL piece, the I agree with you. I think there were other ways that could have been done, and that
For
could have been
sure.
done more effectively.
Definitely.
Because I think that now the message of what that movement reflects may have been lost. Now,
Oh, absolutely.
you know,
And before, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but there's something that you used to always tell me growing up that are the gimmies. And there are certain things that are
you
gimmies.
were paying attention.
Yeah,
See,
every once in a while you give me a little gem.
Yeah.
But you always talk about the gimmies. And whenever somebody has a protest or a large movement, there are always people who are going to try to find something about it and flip it around so that it looks like whatever you're fighting for is for an unjust cause.
That's right.
And that one was a gimme. That was so easy to flip around. So easy.
Sure.
If you're taking a knee during the national anthem, I understand your point, sweetheart, but that was an easy one to flip around.
Indeed.
Easy.
Now, Money Marvin, you played football. You're a big 7'12" guy, and what do you think about this?
So just going back to some of the comments I heard a little bit earlier, as you know, I'm like going back and forth between listening and then just checking on the technical side. First and foremost, I believe in patriotism. I believe in the way that we're all able to express it in our own ways and still be respectful to various forms, really. The second thing would be the fact that looking at our country, looking at our history, as it relates to us, black people, we were founded on a compromise.
Right.
Like, we were never really considered as a whole person to begin with. So we're constantly trying to struggle and make the comeback to where we have our full rights, to where we're actually recognized. I was raised in a family that had a lot of military background. For the most part, every male within my family served within the military at various degrees, both here and foreign. So when Kaepernick decided to take the knee, I could respect the decision. While that's not something I might have done myself,
Right.
I think it was a great way to initially change the narrative, because I felt like at some point we were just becoming a broken record. Mm-hmm. So you had to think of a way to actually make your voice heard while still being respectful. Right?
Sure.
So I think in essence, by taking the knee, that brought a lot more attention, but at the same time, we didn't take the initiative to create our own narrative. And that's something we always struggle with in the black community, is that we allow the common media to influence us, to dictate our voice, when in reality we're supposed to be making that change and projecting our own voices. So I think if we would have had the initial understanding, if we had the initial support to where from the jump we're saying this was what we were trying to do, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Like, we are fed up, we are tired of dealing with the same things, we're tired of being marginalized, we're tired of being targeted, but we unfortunately lack that foresight, and just mass media in general, and just how technologically advanced we are, that took the head of the curve.
Right.
And then again, we're now playing catch up. Like, we're trying to say, no, this isn't what it was ever about. Like, we love our military.
Right.
We love our country. We just don't feel safe in our country.
So you're basically saying that we should have nipped that in the bud in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely needed to happen in the beginning. I think
Yeah.
we have to come together to the point to where we can create our own narrative.
Yeah.
And stop being defined by how society perceives a young black male or a young black female should be.
Right.
Well,
I agree.
I agree with that, and you know, and I think the issue again that I had before I go to that thought was I didn't think that was the best way to handle it, and I guess the thing that just kind of really incensed me, if you will, again, was that whole perspective of you had all of these folks down there in Charlottesville walking the streets with torches and the whole antebellum flag thing working, and yet they were able to say there were good people on both sides of that issue, and people believe that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to give credit where credit was due. You know, you had a lot of Republicans and so forth that came out and said, "Oh no, that's not cool."
Right.
But the fact that you have the leader saying that sends the wrong message. And And there are a lot of folks like you and I and Beezy that